Hello and welcome to the Beyond Average Journeys of Growth and Increasing Value interview series. So I'm your host, Kristen Carlson, and today I'm joined by Sean Quinn, who's the CEO of All Point Retail, and he's led multiple companies in his career and is here to share his insights on taking his businesses beyond average. So Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Would you
Oh,
like to
thank
kick us
you.
off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Okay. I got my roots out of Michigan State University. I was ROTC and then Army officer for a few years. Jumped out of that into corporate America in 1998 in Hawaii and lived there for about 12 years and jumped out of that in '07 to start my first technology business. And moved at that point with my young family to Florida. And we've been here 17 years now. We built that business quickly, sold it, did another business for about 4 or 5 years, and then jumped back into All Point Retail in 2017, which ironically was one of the businesses we worked with in my first company that we built, and then decided to take All Point Retail to a different level with a different business strategy than I had used previously. So anyway, that's how we got here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. And I'd love to know what your vision was to take that business to the next level.
Yeah, so I worked for a copier company, Icon Office Solutions in Hawaii, and ran their national federal government program. Then ended up being the GM of the Hawaii branch for a while. And it was there that I started dealing with not just the federal government, but a lot of the civilian CEOs of the commercial companies throughout Hawaii. And the programs that we put together for copier and printer services, a lot of them were well received, especially on the larger corporations or the multiple locations, et cetera. And so I would start to get asked as the GM by those CEOs of, hey, you do so great on this. Can you guys do, network support? Can you guys do PCs? Can you guys do phone systems? Can you guys do video stuff, et cetera? And so at the time, this would have been '05, '06, like, well, we could do overall technology as a service model based on all those services. But in technology, there's a couple things is you have to have control of the design on that if you're going to standardize and productize and be able to support it, right? So that was where the infancy of that idea came from. And then we just up and quit corporate America and moved to Florida and knew nobody, and started from my partner and I from our houses and grew it from 0 to 15 million in about 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
So
congratulations. Awesome.
yeah.
So tell us about All Point Retail. What is that?
So All Point Retail does technology services for strictly the retail space. So a couple things that we do. I would say we're an IT managed service provider on steroids that only does retail stores. So our sweet spot is anywhere from 10 locations to maybe 250 locations in the retail space. We do all the store level support from networks, phones, video, point of sale, order management, merchant services, you name it. Any technology that's in a retail store, we do it. We implement it, we install it, and we support it through our own call center. Nothing's outsourced, it's our guys. So our guys know technology and our guys know retail. Then we also do a digital transformation team where we'll take an organization from old platforms and migrate them to new ones. And we're agnostic in that space. So we'll kind of figure out what their business needs are and then decide what platform is probably best to take them there and then hold their hand while they get there. And then the third part of what we do is we have our own development and integration house that writes those integrations that truly give those retailers a unified commerce experience. But that all said, really the business model, both First and All Point Retail, was designed from a business owner's mentality, right? Not from our business owners, but the clients that we service. And it really started with, what would you want out of a technology provider? What are your pain points every time you have to deal with tech, right, to make your business work? And we designed the business model from that and then work backwards to find the right technologies to fill it.
Awesome. So what are some of the challenges being that business owner though have you run into, or what are some of the challenges you're dealing with today?
Name the day, right? There's 300 every day that pop up when you wake up in the morning. But it's no different, I think, than most businesses. It's number one is the customer experience, right? It's keeping your clients happy. It's delivering on what you promised. And sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds, right? Things are out of your control that keep you from doing that. But the question is, the standard's still there, right? One of our phrases inside the business is excellence is the standard, but grace is the word, right? So excellence will always be our standard, but you're not always going to hit it. Technology is going to break. And when it breaks, it's how can we respond and how can we get it back up and running quickly so that those businesses stay operational. But I would say customer expectations. And then, we've all dealt with a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. COVID hits in the retail space, all the brick and mortar stores closed down. So how do you quickly move them online? And then once they opened up, how do you move them back? Those that bought into unified commerce did great. Those that were segmented realized that they probably shouldn't be segmented anymore, right? Supply chain issues has certainly been a challenge in the technology space, although that seems to be getting better. But for 2 years there, so that was a challenge. Staffing, right, is always trying to find good talent. Goes up and down in waves, right? Technology in and of itself kind of lends itself to remote workers. Although we're headquartered here in Sarasota, Florida, and I think 70% of our workforce comes to work here. The other 30% is probably spread around the country. But that said, that's a challenge, right? How do you keep culture during that? How do you find the best talent? And how do you keep them from getting headhunted from around the country, since everybody can work from home? So all those things swim around in my head every day.
So do you have any secrets you can share about keeping that culture and keeping your team intact?
We've done pretty well on that. I would say we have less than a 10% turnover, even through all this. And I think we're pretty open with our employees. We pay them well. That's the first thing. We're flexible in the way they want to work, right? We have a lot of people that come in the office, but honestly, they come in the office because they want to come in the office. And that was one of the things, even after COVID in March of 2020, we opened our offices back up in June and said, it's totally optional whether you want to come in or not. You can stay in your offices and space out, or you can come in the conference rooms. And we had almost everybody come back to the office right away. So it's a culture of wanting to come back in and communicate. But also it's, I think we learned from that experience, you can also be more efficient remotely with multiple Zoom meetings in a day that you didn't really need to all go pile in the conference room for what could have been an evening. But as far as culture goes, I think it's that. I think it's keeping it fun as well, but also making them part of that growth process. It's tough being two different kinds of company, right? One that grow and one that are kind of stagnant. If you're in growth mode, everybody's wearing multiple hats. There's stress. There's always new projects that need to be picked up. So how do you turn that into an environment that people want to be part of that, right?
And are they, excited to be a part of that growth, right?
That's become part of my interview process, right? Is I'm usually the last one they'll talk to before we hire them. And that's one of the biggest, differentiators is I'm very clear with them that this is not you're going to come punch in at 8:30 and you'll leave at 5:30 and do the same job every day. And if that's what you're looking for, then let's just stop before we start, right? If you're the kind of person that grabs a bunch of balls and it's like raises your hand and say, I'll try that project, or we're going to do something new, because that's what our clients constantly ask of us, right? Here's a new technology thing I found, or here's a new process I need streamlined, or this isn't working right for me. How can we fix it? We've got to have strategic thinkers on all levels, whether it's our help desk to our project managers to our process managers that can solve those problems, right? And know what team members to bring in.
Yeah,
So.
and how to deal with ambiguity, right? Where it's
Right.
I came out of technology too, so I definitely can relate to your challenges.
Exactly. And you're dealing with an industry where, yes, we have different levels internally of technology. You know technology very well and you understand how it works together. But technology is one of those weird things that on the client side, it's almost a reverse, right? Most of the clients don't understand about technology. They know what they want their technology to do. Some of them don't know what they want their technology to do. So I always joke that in my seat, I'm the interpreter between what the client wants, what they think they want, and then the technologist that actually designed the solution and how we're going to implement that and explaining to them why this will solve their business problems.
Awesome. So how about work-life balance for you? Have you been able to balance both in your life?
I think so. I don't think you're ever perfect at that, right? But once you do get, especially going through 2 or 3 different businesses, I'm certainly probably more balanced in this one than I've ever been. I think you understand what your work life is and what you need to get done and what challenges are coming, especially by the 3rd or 4th time you've gone through it. So there's not much that gets thrown that we don't. But but also just understanding that, hey, why is everybody here? And having a knowledge that that's why your employees are here too, right? They want a good workspace. They want something that can further their careers. But at the end of the day, their family is important and most important as well, right? So you've got to have an environment where they know and don't feel guilty about taking time off to spend with family, encouraged to actually go do so. In fact, we have a 5-year incentive program. Once you've been with us for 5 years, you get an all expense paid trip anywhere in the world for you and a partner. And we force you to actually go on a vacation. Like we're not going to give you the money to go pay your bills, right? You shouldn't have
Right.
enough salary to do that. We actually force you to go. You pick your dream spot, you go there, we'll pay for it. We give you an extra week of PTO to go do it. And the only stipulation is you have to come back and during one of our monthly lunches, show us your pictures and tell us all about it and why did you want to go
Awesome.
there and what did you think and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So
yeah.
where's the most exotic trip somebody's taken?
Well, we just had one of our developers take him and his spouse to Iceland. Iceland
Oh,
is where he always wanted to go. So I did some hiking, did the pools there. I mean, I've never been there, but I've heard about it, right? So he just had a fantastic week, he said.
excellent. Yeah, I've seen some pictures and of the Northern Lights and some
Yeah.
interesting things from Iceland. Well, great. So what are some of your goals this year to take your business beyond average to go to the next level?
I think it's just again, constantly taking feedback from clients of where we can improve on existing services, and then also what are the services being asked for or being asked about that can help them grow their businesses, right? So for internal services, in our case, we've transitioned to a global help desk 24/7. How do you give me a 24/7 English speaking on the same ticketing system? And so we've actually partnered and hired a team in Australia to help us achieve that. So we have US based guys, and then we have our Australia team, and we have twice a day meetings where we can pass back and forth issues so that we can truly give 24/7 support. That would be an existing service. Upcoming services is always about, they don't say that, but in one way, shape, or form, it's always about data, right? Hey, I think I want this new little widget or I want this software program I saw at a conference and you've got to put it in my business. And I'm like, why? Why do you want that? Right? What do you think you're going to get out of it? And eventually it comes down to, I mean, my former military background, it comes down to intelligence. The reason they're wanting to put that piece of tech in there is they think it's going to give me insight into my business in this certain area. So, okay, great, let's go with that, right? How's the best way to achieve that? What do you, so we always start with that end goal from the business owner is what do I want to get out of it? And then let us design the technology. Don't shove a widget at me because you saw it. It might
Right.
not be the best widget, nor is it the widget that's going to deliver the result that you think it's going to deliver. You know, AI is another big one, right? Okay, well, I need some AI. Why do you need AI? Right? What's the buzzword? You got to have AI in your business. Like, what do you want to get from it? I go, how about we start with getting some systems that actually deliver you some data so that you can then combine that data, which is what AI works off of, to figure out patterns and predict stuff for you. But half of them don't even have the data yet, right? So it's just interesting. That's the fun part for me, as we have a lot of growing brands under our umbrella, and so it's fun to watch them grow and to be part of that growth. But then that always comes with new challenges. So what is it that as they grow, they're running into that we can then take back to the team and help them solve?
Awesome. Awesome. And would you have any advice to an aspiring entrepreneur and with your journey that you've had starting a business?
Oh gosh. I mean, that could take 2 hours, right? I've received a ton of advice from, I'm always one that asks questions. Everybody else, you know, people that have been in business longer than me or in different businesses, you can always learn something from everybody, right? So to me, it's ask more questions. Uh, it's work your business every day, right? Think about it from the customer side first, and then figure out how to deliver it. But really, it's just a positive attitude. It's just keep moving forward, right? That's one of our biggest things is you're going to run into stuff every day, but if you can maintain a positive attitude, maintain the vision, and keep moving forward, eventually you move over those obstacles.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today, Sean. It's been great meeting you and learning about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you at our next episode.
Thanks, Kristen, for having me.
You bet.